MacNeill talks to Hugh McCallum, one of the world's leading pibroch players.
Tonight we're in the courtyard of Dean Castle, and the piper's tune is pibroch, the classical music of the great Highland bagpipe. Now, pibroch is a Gaelic word which simply means piping, because at one time there was no other music played on the pipes. Nowadays we tend to call it ceol mór, big music, to distinguish it from all the rest of pipe music, ceol beg, which is little music. Where pibroch came from, we've no idea, but it's been around for a very long time. We have tunes popular today by pipers which were composed in the 15th century, and even one or two from the 14th century. To describe a pibroch in a few words is very difficult, if not impossible. It's a tune specially composed for the Highland bagpipe, and it wouldn't sound anything like correct, I don't think, played on any other instrument. The tune, as it's composed, accepts all the limitations of the bagpipe, which are many, but it also uses the marvellous acoustics of the instrument, which are also many. And I want to quote three different people in saying this next thing: the harsh, unyielding sound of the chanter, the perpetual pedal of the drones, combining to produce the glorious effect which makes this the supreme musical instrument of the Scottish race. The tune we were listening to up there was part of the ground, as we call the theme, of Rory MacLeod's Lament. And it was played by one of the top pibroch players in the world today, Hugh McCallum. Well, Hugh.
Well, Seumas.
You've played well. Have a seat.
Well, thanks.
You should always play on the top of castle walls in the dark.
Yes, it's...
That's a special favourite of yours, that tune.
Yes, indeed. I think I was told I was the first person to play that tune for 200 years when that tune came out, the Cantarach.
You've won a lot of prizes with it, have you?
Yes, indeed. It's been a good tune to me. And,
4 or 5 silver chanters?
Not with the same tune, but no, it's been a very good tune to me.
Good. Yes, now, I think it's about 10 years ago, but that means it's probably about 20 years ago that it actually came out, you know?
Yes.
About 66 or something.
68 it was set, yes.
And of course, as you say, nobody had played the tune before. It was a challenge to all of us how we would play it and what we would do about it.
Yes, I suppose we all had our own ideas of...
Would you place it in the top rank of pibroch?
Oh yes, indeed. I think it's an excellent tune. I really do.
If you're going to learn a tune, which, well, of course you're learning a tune that has been played for 1,000 years, like Mary MacLeod, then there's no problem because somebody will teach you and you have to do it in one particular style. But with a Rory MacLeod thing, how do you go about it?
Well, I think you've just got to have a look at the tune and make up your own mind as to how you think this phrase and that phrase will go, and maybe try it 2 or 3 different ways until you get something that you think is what you think is the way it should go.
Do you work on your own, or do you ever consult any of the other pipers?
Well, I think we all discuss tunes amongst ourselves.
And discard what the other man's thoughts are.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it'd be an idea, you know, because I feel there's not enough people appreciate and enjoy Peebrach. You must feel this too.
Yes, well, I don't know whether that's the piper's fault or not. I think it's an acquired taste, Seumas. I think it's something you've got to listen to. And
it's classical music, and
yes.
all classical music
Yes,
is
indeed.
not attractive until you've heard it or not.
Yes.
Could we maybe take a tune that you had to learn yourself, and maybe you could go through it with me and sort of say how you went about learning it and what the various bits are? Give me a lesson, in fact.
Yes, well, fine. What about Alistair Jerrig?
Well, that's a nice short one. Anyway.
A nice short one. Not as easy as some people may think.
Oh, no, it's not easy. A lot of difficulties.
But a bonny wee tune, I think. And
when you're learning it too, and perhaps teaching, you mentioned the Canturach, you know, where this Rory MacLeod was buried. Do you use Canturach yourself?
Oh yes, yes, I use it very much.
Strictly, I mean, you sing strictly to the...
I think we all have, you know, our own Canturach, but I've tried very much over the years to try and stick to the Nether Lawn where I could.
Well, that's the easiest one for us because so many tunes are available, written in the Nether Lawn, which of course means that if I send you a postcard which says He and Dro, He ara ra, you know exactly what that is.
Yes.
I mean, you don't need me to sing it to you, send you a singing telegram. Well, could we look at Alistair Jerrig? By sheer accident, I brought your chanter out here, and my own, in case I might use it. Give me a lesson. Take me through how you learned Alistair Jerrig.
Well, I think one of the things we've got to look at is how the phrase structure of the tune lies itself. And this one being an irregular type tune, we've really got to, I think, go through the ground and see how we think the various stress points and the carrying on notes lie and just take it from there.
Yes. Now, if I remember correctly, the ground has sort of 3 phrases in the first line, doesn't it? I mean, I always felt the thing was going to finish at the end of the second phrase. That's right,
yes, and then you have this little bit added on at the end of the line, yes.
What would be the important things to dwell on? I mean, are there certain notes that you would...
Yes, well, I think, you know, you've got to think about the throw on D in the first phrase there.
Would you like to play the... So you've got to change that onto the bagpipe, which is not so easy to understand for people, but I think the singing...
I think the Canturach does...
gets the song in your head.
Yes, and you can stress with the voice, where you can't with the pipe, in fact. Yes.
He and Notre.
Yes.
Whereas you just got to keep the thing. Let me hear it on the chanter, if you would. Yes. In teaching, do you teach the singing first or the fingering first?
I think a bit of both. I would think probably I would tend to sing it first.
And let them chanter it.
And let them chanter it. And quite often I would, if it was a group, I would maybe have some of them singing and some of them actually playing.
Yes.
And then swap it over.
Get the music, the song in their head as well as the actual fingering.
Yes.
Okay, well that's the first line of the ground now. Of course, Peebrach is made up in variations. Well, not worry about the repeat actually. But say the first line of the first variation now has to follow the same theme notes.
Yes. With the stress going to the first note in the group of 2, like this.
Yes, and that's a very common kind of variation.
Yes, what we call a Gias
Gias,
variation, yes.
And then the next one is just a simple...
Well, it's just
straight one
a
from there.
double up of that, except that we're sticking to the melody note itself.
Instead of going back to the tonic A all the time.
Yes.
Yes, now if I remember correctly, in this tune, there's nothing now till the torlua.
That's right, straight on to a torlua in doubling form. In other words, with no cadences.
So how would that go?
Well,
so it follows the theme very faithfully. There
Yes,
isn't any
yes.
change in the thing at all.
and I think the important thing in torlua and crunlua variations is to stick to the theme note and make
sound
it positive
through.
and strong.
Yeah, and of course a poorer player isn't able to do the torlua or the crunlua fast enough, and so he takes time from the theme and can't keep
Well,
the
that's
tune
right,
going,
yes, and this is the tendency.
And now the
The
crunlua.
crunlua.
Now that's often the second last variation, because then comes the
The amach.
amach. Do you play an amach in this tune?
I think it's one of these optional things, Seumas, that I know you have a theory that you shouldn't play amachs and laments, but I think you've got to be guided to a certain extent by the music itself.
Yes, well, I always remember the story about the Highlander who went to the funeral, and when he came back, his wife said, "How did the funeral go?" And he said, "Oh, it was a disaster. The piper spoiled it by playing an amach and a lament."
Well,
but I suppose the other view is that if there's plenty C's and B's and D's, you should do it.
yes, I think that's fair.
Great. Well, the moment of truth has arrived, I think. Hugh, I'm going to ask you to go up now and play the whole of that tune for us, up on the castle wall again, if you would.
Right.
And thank you very much for your contribution to our piper's tune.
Not at all. It's been a pleasure, Seumas.
Well, now, as Hugh goes up to play this tune for us, I should tell you that the full name for the tune is Lament for Alistair Gerrig MacDonald of Glengarry. Alistair Gerrig means Red Alistair, or Red Alexander, if you like. MacDonald, the way he spelled it, it was interesting because he spelled it the D-O-N-N-E-L-L, the way people from my part of the world say MacDonald normally, MacDonald. And he called it that. He didn't say MacDonnell the way people say nowadays. He called it MacDonald. He just maybe wasn't a very good speller. And of course, the people who are descended from him, they tend now to say MacDonnell. It's not a long tune, of course. It's a very pleasant tune. It's about a young man, in fact, who died in his 20s. And so there's no great grandeur to it, as there was, in fact, to his father's tune, Lament for Donald of Lagan. Well, this then, Alistair Gerrig, is Hugh McCallum's final contribution to our piper's tune.